Hi, I'm Nuclear. Gonna be playing some KSP today. I've seen a couple things in the Steam forum, as well as a couple other places that might want to do a tutorial. So I'm gonna start a new one. Just gonna do a sandbox and call it test. It's usually what I do for my test missions, so that I can actually figure it out. All right, and we got everything in here. But what we're gonna do is start off with only what we have. Well, let's go on and do a full on kind of first levels of stuff that you get. That way I can show you what could be going on. I actually heard one guy lit his engines, or his engine, I should say, and couldn't get off the ground in career mode. What I'm going to do is use exactly what you'd be starting off with in career mode, except I do use MechJeb, and that is going to be the difference. I'm going to put a MechJeb. As you can see, my thrust weight's very high. That's going to go away pretty soon, because I think what he was doing is trying to get into orbit easily, quickly, and not really thinking about thrust that well. I'm going to have to raise this guy up. And what I'm trying to do, well, other than show what I think what he was doing. Wow, I need more fuel. Didn't think it was going to take this much. Okay then. Well, looks like I'm getting really close, so I'm going to start using small ones. That's pretty good for what I'm trying to do. Now that's a pretty big rocket. I'm actually a little scared of it. Alright, we're gonna put some. What was that was the easy one. These are low end, first radial decouplers you'll get. And what I'm going to do is this piece I'm no longer really caring about trying to keep it close to first items. What I'm trying to do is set up kind of a stand using these engines. Now I'm going to use some structural pieces so that it will act decently as a stand. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and use fuel line. Yeah, that ought to be good. Alright, let's just show a little bit about this guy. Let's call it Flight 1. I don't want a space in there. Alright, here we go. Alright, now as you can see I got my mech jeb. I know some of you don't like it. On mech jeb, if you're not using mech jeb or on career mode with mech jeb, off the bat you can't use it. T turns your SAS on, or ASAS if you've got one. R is your RCS. I got some, but no way to expel it and use it. Shift throttles up, Control throttles down. You got your WASD keys, that does your main control. When you're running in a SAS, you also have to use your N, H, J, K keys. I think there's another two over there. Don't use them that much. You also got your Q and E key. Those do roll. Now if you're using MechJeb, you can put in to prevent overheats, prevent going over the terminal velocity, which off the bat, if you're doing that, you're pulling a thrust to weight ratio of 2.0 plus. Limit acceleration to 40 meters per second is the stock on MechJeb. You can change that, of course. At that, you would need a thrust to weight ratio of 4.0 or more. Corrective steering, auto staging. I always like to pre-zero and post about 0.1 second. This is going to auto stage to 2. I got auto warp. There's also this here. This is your ascent path. This slider changes your turn shape. Lower it is, sharper it is. I always like 100, nice, smooth, easy. Final flight path angle, 0 degrees, love that. Turn in altitude, 69 kilometers. To start, 6.1 kilometer. If you're doing this in a manual flight without any MechJeb at all, you might want to start turning at 10,000 kilometers or a little bit higher. Bigger your ship, a little later that you might want to turn till you get your structure a little bit better. I've actually flown a couple that I needed to turn at 25,000 or 25 kilometers, sorry, because it had just ejected at 24 kilometers. The third layer, from the core being your first layer, then your second layer, and then your third layer. Well, if I had turned while I was, had that third layer, it would rip the ship apart. So, not a good idea. I'm going to put my throttle real quick down to 0. Oh, X0 is your throttle. But yeah, the vessel needed to turn after I had shed that layer, so I manually told it to turn at that altitude. It was a big ship. Bigger your ship, harder it is to turn. So you might not want to have a big ship, but at the same time, you need a big of a ship as you need. I'm going to do a manual type in, and last time I was using MechJeb, I was trying to go for a very high orbit. I'm going to tell it to turn at 15 kilometer and finish out at 100. I'm going to tell it I want to be at 150. I'm going to engage this, which will auto throttle, and it'll go to full throttle. Space does your staging when you're doing it manually. It also, although I'm on stage 3 is not active. Once I hit stage, it will be active, which means the engine will burn. And we'll do that right now. Uh-oh. What am I clicked on? There we go. Alright, as you can see, we're going to be burning. We're not moving anywhere at all. And I've got so much fuel in here that it's going to take 7 minutes to even burn this off. No, you won't see the 7 minutes because, yeah, magic of filmmaking. Alright, and one thing I wanted to point out that I did not point out a second ago is this button, All Stats. Tells you your weight, your start weight, which is your current weight, current thrust to weight ratio, max thrust to weight ratio during that stage, atmospheric delta V, atmospheric time, vacuum delta V, and vacuum time. This up here is your stage during atmosphere, vacuum, and total atmosphere and vacuum delta V. Let's go back to that. And it's about to stage pretty soon here. As you can see, the thrust to weight ratio is actually getting up quite well, up at a 0.8, now 0.1. Been burning for about 7.5 minutes here. Now, I probably put way too much fuel for this type of demonstration, but that's okay. In about 5-6 seconds, it'll stage, and we'll go up to this guy, which is 0.99 off the bat. So let's hope it don't fall too much. Oh, it never staged. It was supposed to stage. Well, I just staged it manually. And since we've got 1-to-1 or 1.00, we'll actually hold our altitude. At 1.01, it'll actually start lifting. And as you see, we're very slowly lifting. This long fuel tank is very dangerous. You can have one this long, but I would not recommend using these guys. I'd recommend using the ones that I was using for the stands, because it would take this one and combine it into one. So that's 1 tank, 2 tank, 3 tank of that big one. Now this guy will launch and fly for a while. It's got about 2.5 minutes left on fuel. We'll slowly lumber into space, or at least into the air right now. It's probably got enough thrust that it'll get into space, but it'll take just so long. So, there's one thing you can do while throttled up in the atmosphere is physical thrust, or physical time acceleration. In space, you cannot be throttled up while time accelerating. So let's do some physical. And that's the problem with physical, is you actually wobble more. Your physics get thrown a lot more out of whack. So what could be a perfectly stable craft could implode on itself. I'm just going to skip ahead here real quick till when this thing's getting close to staging, or till the turn. Alright, getting about 30 seconds and close to 10K. Of course, got another 5K to go till the turn will start. But I don't think this stage will actually make it. Well, it might. Just barely. But as you can see, our thrust to weight ratio is also going up. Now I've actually been at terminal velocity until 16K, 16 kilometer. But the engine was very powerful, and I was going lightweight pretty quick there. And I was getting close to 4.0 thrust to weight ratio. And at which time it stopped complaining about terminal velocity and started complaining about the acceleration. And of course, we're already in the grav turn. 20K, I was wrong about that one not lasting. And then we went to stage. Although it lasted, and you can tell that I had the grav turn at 15K, but it didn't seem to start turning until like 20K. That's normal for MechJeb. It's a little late at times. And that's where at 36,000 it kind of considers space or orbital speeds. And since I'm over 4.0, limiting to 40 meters per second, kind of coasting. Up here the atmospheric drag's not much. I'm going to hit M, which brings you to map. And that is a maneuver node. MechJeb will do those on the ascent after it gets through the atmosphere. You got a nav ball here, time of the burn, and time till it burn. And as you can see, I don't have the fuel for this. So I'm going to let it go for a little while, making sure that I actually have, well, maybe I do. But I do want to watch that I have enough fuel left to start a re-entry. If I can get it under 65,000 kilometers, I'll actually re-enter eventually. I'll barely slow down, slow on my other side, and then every time it'll actually slow down a little bit more and more and more. Alright. And there's an orbit. And the MechJeb ascent guidance automatically shuts off. I'm going to use landing guidance. Tell it to land it there, which, as you can see, it's showing where it is. Landing prediction, it won't have one because if it's not actually landing yet. And I do like to change this just a little bit. Let's go back to 4, but go up to 50, 40. Trying to get it kind of nice, neat location. Alright. Now, I don't want it engaging yet, so what I'm going to do is time accelerate, which is the period button. You do have limitations depending on your height. Your comma button right next to it is your time decelerate, and I'm going to tell it to land at target. It will actually time accelerate on its own. And also, if you have gears, parachutes, it'll auto deploy for you. Now, of course, you can see I don't have that much fuel left, and since I don't have any energy producing capabilities other than my current engine, and it's going to do course corrections. Makes it very precise, and of course here's your difference between what it's going to do and where it should be. When you're landing without MechJeb, it's a lot harder to do precise landings. It takes a lot of time, a lot of skill, and sometimes a landing could take hours to get it precise, because you're planning out your moves, executing the moves, so on and so forth. Now, as you see, I'm descending. Coming from this direction, it doesn't look like KSP is anywhere close. It's right over there. Probably won't land there, actually. Maybe I will. And that actually looks like it, but it's not. I'm going to go back to the map, show you what I'm talking about. If I can get it. What I was seeing that looked like it is probably that guy right there. Yeah. It's right there. KSP is over there. Move that a little bit out of the way. They'll try to burn off this fuel while descending the auto landing guidance, but it'll do it at a really low altitude. It'll also deploy the parachute at a low altitude. If you're coming in really fast, you might be using a drogue or use the parachute as a drogue, you want to deploy it up here. About 22 kilometers is where it will deploy into drogue mode for standard chute as well as the XL and all the radial parachutes. The drogue chute will deploy much higher, probably right around here. I haven't used it in a long time. But when it gets down to, I think that one's like 2,500 meters, and you can see we got the plasma trails now. At 2,500 meters, it'll fully deploy. All your radials, your XL chute, this guy, all your standard chutes that's not a drogue will deploy at 500 meters off the ground. Go figure why it's always off the ground, not based upon sea level. But if you're coming at those guys, that's a good thing, because those are 2,000-3,000 kilometers, or 2,000-3,000 meters. And if you actually deployed at 500, you would smash into those pretty hard. As you can see, KFSP, the runway, still carrying a lot of speed. Not really getting too deep yet, but it's getting down there. But as we slow down, it will rotate. There's a unique effect on my parachute. And it's saying we're going to be 10 meters or so away. I have no problem with that. It will use the engine every so often because the parachute, that when it deploys, it considers it not slow enough. Under 10,000. I'm just using MechJeb on this one to kind of show you the basics. The other videos that I've got up, one of them is called, that I'm soon going to put up, is Nuke Mode. I had another series called Hawk Mode. I found a few flaws as well as I've revised it a little bit. So I'm taking those down soon. If you don't see them, well, they're already down. But I'm going to revise them, and they're going to be Nuke Mode. Uh-oh, might hit a building. Maybe I should have put it further over. Oh, and that's another thing. When I do career mode, I like to put up flags where I'm landing, so I know where I've landed, so I can return there, and I know what's there, and you can see the engine firing a little bit. I know what's there and where to go to get specific science. There goes the parachute in drogue mode. I'm going to get rid of the lower section due to the fact that I'm too heavy with it. And if you don't have parachutes, of course it's got that MechJeb trying to control it until it runs out of power. Uh-oh. Just started lifting back off. Of course that one generates power, so it shouldn't. Whoa. I've never seen MechJeb. Well, MechJeb's not really controlled, so I can't expect it to work properly. That thing has a lot of thrust. Oop, just ran out of fuel. I just heard it. Boom. that's not gonna blow up too. One thing is when you're using physical time acceleration and using parachutes, do not have it over 2 times speed while your chute's deploying. Reason is it'll tear your chute right off you, and you'll lose your craft, any science, and if you're not quick enough or don't revert, you'll lose your guy. Now, if you've already gone to like the Space Center or something like that, you can't revert anymore. And here's the Kerbal Space Academy, vertical assembly, the hangar. That building, I am not sure what it does. Haven't been started up yet. But I will recover. And that's it for this tutorial. Hope it helped you guys out. Right now the mode is 0.23. Hearing about 0.24. That should be coming out soon, I hope. And all my videos will have the marker of what version it is, so you'll be able to tell. Alright, until next time, I'm Nuclear, and I'll see you guys later.